Hello, I'm Tessa Rickard, a nutritionist with a special interest in practical, easy, and delicious whole foods and helping women manage their Hashimoto's really well. I have Hashimoto's myself. So, how to find the right gluten-free bread if you're making the transition for your Hashi symptoms? It's really tricky with all the options available to you. So, maybe you're ready to try cutting out gluten to manage your Hashis better, or maybe you've already read the memo, but you need some help finding that perfect loaf of bread that will leave you feeling great and support your health goals. I've got your back. I won't be going into why you should be cutting out gluten if you have Hashimoto's, but I will link below to some other videos and some blogs and resources that can help explain that. This video is really for those who already understand that gluten is not their friend and they're really seeking that bread recommendation. So bread, it's the stuff of life, right? So I totally agree that excess carbohydrate consumption is definitely an issue in Western health, right? No arguments there, but you will never hear me recommending cutting out carbs completely, especially for hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, unless it is for a specific clinical reason. So my approach is to teach my clients to choose wisely, to educate themselves and understand the difference between simple and complex carbohydrates. And this encompasses bread because it can be a healthy, gut-loving, and definitely a Hashimoto's friendly addition to meals. It can keep you feeling full and energized for the day. Personally, I eat bread every single day. I don't eat a whole lot, but I definitely have it every day. So I'll often have a piece of toast with breakfast or lunch, sometimes both if I feel I need it. I will definitely have pasta and pizza and that kind of thing occasionally too. So there are a lot of gluten-free options out there, which is really exciting. But I want to help you discern which of these will support your health goals and why, and help you understand why others won't do that. So when cutting out gluten, many people swap their gluten-free products for gluten-free versions of the same thing. So meaning they opt for the supermarket versions of biscuits, cereal, bread, pasta, etc. So in other words, they keep eating the same old SAD, which stands for Australian Standard Australian Diet, minus the wheat. And this isn't necessarily going to help you feel better, help with brain fog or Hashimoto's weight gain. So, did you know that gluten is actually a protein? So, gluten is primarily responsible for the elasticity and chewy texture of dough and bread, as well as that structure, like the nice fluffiness of baked goods. So, in most gluten-free products in the supermarkets, they're trying to emulate that white, fluffy effect of gluten, right? So the problem is that these substitutes are generally highly processed flours or isolated starches, so really refined starches that will make your blood sugar rocket. So what happens when blood sugar goes sky high? Cue fatigue, sugar cravings, brain fog, weight gain. And if we keep putting our body through that cycle long enough, think lifestyle diseases like type 2 diabetes. There are these are all issues that Hashimoto's sufferers struggle with anyway, so why would we want to exacerbate that? So if you see rice flour or starch, tapioca, maize, corn flour, potato starch at the top of the ingredients list, then you know this bread is very high in starches, which are a carbohydrate that break down into glucose or sugar very quickly. So that's being due to up to 94% carbohydrates. So they are the ingredients that are going to spike your blood sugar. These can leave you feeling really bloated, sluggish, very tired, and they will make Hashi's weight loss really difficult. So please don't make this mistake because you might wind up mistakenly rejecting the gluten-free lifestyle as helpful in tackling your Hashi symptoms when it's actually your poor blood sugar regulation that's causing those symptoms. So because bread is an everyday food, it's really important you find an alternative with a low glycemic index so that your blood sugar stays nice and even. So just checking, are you aware that in an ingredients food list on a food label, the ingredients are listed in order of quantity? So this means that the first ingredient is the one that's used the most in that particular product, and each ingredient after that is used in smaller amounts. So if potato starch is the first ingredient, it's the main ingredient by weight. The further down an ingredient is on the list, the less of it is in the product. So that's really important when you're trying to find a good bread. So keep that in mind. So when you're looking for bread with a low glycemic load, you really need to turn the packet over, look at the ingredients list. Is brown rice flour, buckwheat, sorghum, almond meal some of the ingredients at the top of that list? If yes, then you're probably looking at a good option. It's hard for me to say, of course, without looking at it, but it's likely. So the other clue is the color. So if the bread is white, then it's made of refined flours and starches. Avoid. You want it to be brown and not dyed brown as some of the supermarket ones are. Although it's not the best indicator, as it doesn't always take into account how fast your body will be able to digest it due to the glycemic load or fiber. You can also look at the carbohydrate content per 100 grams. So that's on the back as well. Most commercial gluten-free bread from the supermarket will contain 40 to 50 grams of carbs per 100 grams, whereas the lower glycemic options will often be more like 25 to 35 grams, and even lower for the paleo seed-based breads, which are a really good option as well. So let's get down to my brand recommendations. My absolute favorite is Melbourne-made GF Precinct, the buckwheat and chia loaf. It does contain some starches, but the first ingredient is stone ground buckwheat, so you know you're getting a low GI option. It is best toasted after the first day or two and contains no preservatives, unlike most commercial breads from the supermarket, so it will go stale much more quickly than the Franken breads like Tip Top, for example. I just freeze it. I just slice it, freeze it, and then toast it after the first 48 hours. It comes in a nice square shape. It doesn't fall apart if it's fresh. It's not soft like Tip Top by any means, but it's still really delicious and a very serviceable bread. They do also produce another bread called the Market Loaf, which is besan flour. So that's softer and slightly more starchy, just slightly. Makes a lovely sandwich bread when fresh. So they do have that. You can find them all over Australia fresh and in the freezer section of health food stores, and a lot of IGAs in certain areas will have them too. Plus, they have a list of stockists on their website. So see if you've got something local to you. On my travels, I have found a lot of good gluten-free breads in health food stores too, some of which are very hearty buckwheat breads or similar. There's usually always a paleo bread in the freezer of a health food store. So yes, my recommendations are mostly buckwheat based because it is a low GI whole pseudo grain. So it's rich in protein and most importantly, it is gluten free. I've only ever come across one client who couldn't tolerate it. So once I did actually find a sorghum based sourdough and it was so good. It was in Byron Bay, of course, but I've not come across anything similar since. So I have found that the best options do tend to be buckwheat. But if you don't tolerate buckwheat, try for sorghum. So if you don't have access to a health food store, a good IGA, or you're outside the shipping zone of the online stores that GF Precinct stockists for, you can definitely bake your own buckwheat bread. It's actually really, really easy. I'll put my favorite recipes below. I have found that it's a lot more dense and requires toasting, but it's economical and really quite quick. So my husband's also been experimenting with sourdough buckwheat, and I've been enjoying the fruits of his efforts. So we'll see how that turns out. If we get a good recipe going, I will share that as well. I hope this video has helped you to know how to read labels and find your own gluten-free bread that really helps you feel amazing. I will add some links below to help you on your journey, and please share this video with anyone else if you think that they might need this information too.